with that, we come to this special address. This one is by Huzefa Motiwala, Director, Systems Engineering, India and SAARC, Palo Alto Networks, on why Palo Alto Networks is optimistic. Requesting him to please take the stage. Over to you.
I have 10-15 minutes. I'm going to ditch the pleasantries. You already know I'm Huzefa. I take care of the pre-sales team for Palo Alto Networks. But this very interesting topic of why we are optimistic in today's times in the face of cybersecurity. So let me take a step back and take you all guys back to many, many years. I see a few gray hairs in the audience just like me. How many of you remember the I love you virus? Show of hands. You do? Yeah. Good old days, I said, right? Good old days, it looks, by the way, that's a monitor, in case the young generation doesn't know. The good old days, this was a virus which came as an attachment into your mail, and the moment you open it was actually a worm, so it used to spread across. It infected close to 10 million Windows computers, and approximate damage. And by the way, when did it come out? Any idea? 96? No, close enough. No, May 5th, year 2000, all right? Infected 10 million Windows computers with a damage of 25 billion. So you might say, why am I saying good old days? Any guesses? The reason is, before this incident, all of us in cybersecurity slept well. We took care of one incident and we slept well again. Is this the case anymore? No. What is the reason? The landscape has changed considerably, right? These attacks have just gone very, very, very sophisticated. The pace of attack. I mean, we all know that AI is not just prevalent on the defense side, but even the hackers are using it. Deep fakes, voice impersonation. Warm GPT, has anybody heard about that? Right? It's an LLM model where you don't even need expertise to create an attack. So the threat landscape has changed drastically. We are seeing data leaks every 4 hours. Second, it's become an industry. How many of you have heard about ransomware as a service? You have? Interesting, right? You just need a motivation and you just need a perpetrator and you're off. The cost of cyber breach, the average cost, I think somebody touched upon in terms of per data records, but the average cost of data breach is close to $4.5 million. Now, why am I saying this? If you add all the cost of data breach in the world, all, by 2025, you know the cost that would it all accumulate into? $10.5 trillion. Means if it were an independent country, it would be the third largest country after US and China. That's what the impact we are talking about. And finally, I think the targets have expanded. I mean, over the last couple of years, the perimeter has vanished. Your employees, your customers can work from a coffee shop to your data centers anywhere. There are no defined lines. Applications have moved to the cloud. So what has happened? The attack surface has suddenly exploded, right? So with all of these parameters, it's only a matter of time that we've sort of accepted and got into this mindset that there's a presumption of breach exists. Breach are normalized, presumption of failure already exists. That's what we sort of are thought to talk about, right? Or thought in terms of the face of this adversity. Is that fine? So what is your current condition right now? Does it feel like this? Does it feel like, hey, this is all just too overwhelming and where do I start? But do you think that we all sit in one place and try and figure out and dwindle our thumbs and see, okay, what do I do? No. What do we do? Usually, we define some sort of framework in terms of how we're going to tackle this in the face of this changing threat landscape, right? I'm going to quickly take into a 5-step framework that we feel that everybody should be doing, and I'm going to keep it very simple. I promise, no slides, no product pitch. I'm just going to say, what is it that you should be looking at? And then why is it difficult? Number 1, first and foremost, fortify. The breaches happen because they are exploiting something, right? Whether it's a vulnerability, so patch software, your applications are not patched, user credentials all over, try and fortify that. That's a good foundation to start with, right? Make it as harder for the attacker to sort of find that. That's a good foundation to start. On top of that, apply something called as zero trust. What is zero trust? What is zero trust? Default deny, which means any user on any device trying to access any application or any infrastructure, don't leave everything open, allow all. Default deny, sounds simple, hard to implement. But yeah, okay, you get it, right? So zero trust. On top of that, have a mechanism, a prevention mechanism, ideally, any known attacks which has happened anywhere in the world in the past. It doesn't matter if it's in your country or industry, anywhere, right? It's a new vector or a known vector. How do we put in measures to prevent those from coming into environment, right? So preventing known attack. If you've taken care of that, you've done a foundation, you've applied zero trust, that's a good point to start. You've now stopped all known attacks. What is the next thing? Come on, cybersecurity practitioners. If I've taken care of the known attack, what is the next thing I'll do? Unknown attacks. Never happened before. 0 day. How do I ensure that I have a mechanism in place? If I cannot prevent, at least I should be in a position to detect and immediately remediate or prevent in the first place, right? So try and detect and respond to all the unknown attacks. Now, if you have taken care of that, the last piece is native integration, which means, very simply put, how do I take the same measure? I've done the foundation, I've hardened it, I've made zero trust access, I've blocked known, I've forced the attacker to create unknown attacks. How do I now take it and apply consistently at every endpoint, every application, every user, so that the experience is the same, right? Sounds simple? Simple? Hard to implement? I'll tell you why. 3 reasons. Number 1, scale. I said, take the last known attacks and how do you apply that and all your enforcement policies. Now try and do that for the last billion known attacks that have happened across the globe. How do you take that learning and start applying that to all your environment? How do you take that simple framework that you have developed for 100 users, suddenly your users are 200,000, can you use the same methodology and protect that? 5,000 servers, 800 applications. Easy? Not easy. The scale is number 1. Disruption. We get paranoid in cybersecurity for even a network of packet lost. We want to fortify, we want to put architectures after architecture to ensure that there is no downtime. That creates a sort of a big issue. In today's world where applications and digitization is running across, you don't want to apply brakes. So disruption is number 2. Number 3, how many of you in this room believe that if I achieve compliance, nobody will kick me out of my job, security is secondary? Right? It's a very, very compliance-centric approach, a compliance-first approach, right? All of these are making this life, difficult for us.
Hello.
Sorry.
This is called forced disruption. I've covered the scale, I've covered disruption, I've said a compliance-centric first approach. Now, the way it looks like it, and if you face the threat landscape, we at Palo Alto feels that this is solvable, and we are very optimistic. And I'll tell you 3 reasons why we feel that way. Number 1, we can now operate at machine scale, which means leverage that vast, unlimited amount of network, amount of compute power that the cloud provides and deliver security where it matters, at all your enforcement points. This is huge. This means that all those last known attacks and unknown attacks, I'm able to dwell, I'm able to culminate, and it can be happening anywhere. I'll give you some very interesting statistics. On an average, Palo Alto daily collects 750 million telemetries. These are the files, the URLs, the clicks that you do. 1.5 million absolutely new attacks we are detecting every day. And all of these is going into our databases to protect. Can you take a guess how many attacks in a day for our customers? The known, unknown, all going in. 8.6 billion. That's more than the human population on Earth, right? So this is where machine scale really, really comes in handy. Now, once you do that, what happens is when you're going and touching all of these enforcement points, what starts coming in? The heart of everything, data, right? You get the telemetry in. You get to figure out who's accessing what kind of, unintended malicious code is going in. You start collecting those telemetry. What happens if you start collecting good data? What starts applying over that? And I promise, every security enclave nowadays, you have to talk about AI. So I'm going to talk about AI. So once you have the data, you start applying those very, very complex AI models, machine learning models, right? Precision AI. And that's what keeps your threat protected in line as it happens. So this is reason number 2. And finally, if you do that, the third thing which is giving us a lot of hope, and I think Vishal and Samir touched upon that, is consolidation. In a cybersecurity industry, can you take a guess the number of cybersecurity companies in the world today? Take a guess. Come on. 1,000? 2,000? It's anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000. You start walking in the DSCI hall, take the badge, and by the time you come to Pearl Hall, you will at least, I would have counted, 100 plus? On an average, a customer has 30 to 35 tools being used, right? So the industry is, and there's a reason why it happened, right? Every use cases, you had a thing to be done. From a Palo Alto perspective, we feel that now is the time to platformize, exactly what Samir and Vishal said, and that doesn't mean you compromise on each of the individual use cases. They need to plug into the platforms, right? So platformization is the way to go. And if you combine all of these, cloud scale delivery, collect good data, apply AI, and finally platformize is what is giving this lot of hope of delivering this. And this is not a start, this is the technology part. What needs to follow is also a few things, a change of mindset. A change of mindset that security is not an afterthought, needs to be bolt on, right? You need to accept a little bit of disruption for a lot of security. Let's not make it a bottomless hole, right? Define your architecture, define your risk, and that's what you should be going. And the whole idea is whatever new you are learning in detecting and responding, that should go into your prevention mechanism. It's a cycle. That's what your SOC should do. So if you do that, if the scale is there, if the mindset shift happens, the last thing which needs to be happening, and I'm already seeing some green offshoots, is we need to be, our customers expect vendors like us to be far more prescriptive. No longer it's good enough to hand you a tool and say, this is how you can go from point A to point B. Oh, by the way, you have 3 different options to go there. That is not going to work. What needs to happen is not only give you the tool, but be absolutely prescriptive of this is where you need to go, and this is how we will take you along the way. So this is the change which is beginning, and we are here to drive that, and that is what makes Palo Alto a lot more happy and a lot more optimistic in terms of why we together, you and us, can drive in this changing threat landscape. Thank you very much.